Let's start with the figure of 8. Really what we start with is sinking, but it's just easier to feel the sinking if you're moving as well. Problem with moving is that we tend to come up when we move, and we just want to stay down. So the field of gravity, just feeling this downward force that's there all the time. John had this lovely way of putting it. He just said, imagine it's raining all the time, which if you're Irish is quite easy. So just imagine we're doing this outside and it's drizzling. So you've just got that sense of downward. You're gradually getting wet. Your clothes are getting heavier with the water and you're just being pulled down. We want to relax and soften so much that it feels like we've become porous. We've sort of opened up and allowed gravity inside the body. So I have a sense of something streaming down through my body as a consequence of the force of gravity. And then I want to be able to feel the opposite of that. So what I call levity. Levity is the natural lightness that will flow up against gravity and that balances gravity. The force of the heavens, the force of the sky. The relative vacuum of the gaseous state and the state above the earth in the heavens is sucking. Something up there is sucking something out of me. It's not my matter. My matter is influenced by gravity, by the earth. It's a different part of me. It's what they call the spiritual part. So something in me is lifting, is lightening and lifting. And that's really the essence of what it is we want to capture when we practice. It's what Nietzsche called an even cheerfulness and what I call enthusiasm. I have to be able to catch that rising levity. Otherwise, I'm just going through these plodding motions and there will be no grace to what I do. When you get the hands involved, it becomes just a bit like waving hands in the clouds, really. allowing gravity in. You need softness. You need compassion. What you really need is openness, because you need to feel that you're this open tube, like a cylinder with an open bottom, closed by the ground, but you're not closing inside yourself, and open at the top, so that there can be a sense of something flowing through you, out of you here, but also flowing out of you here. That's really important. You're just a conduit. You're just a channel for energy to flow through. You're just trying to look at everything in minutest detail. So here we're just trying to make sure that those two flows, the down and the up, are always in balance. And then when I'm sitting, when I'm not moving, just trying to look at what is it that makes me the judgmental, opinionated asshole. What do I have to do? Because that's not our natural state. Our natural state is love, a desire to embrace and become one with everything. That's our natural state when we're truly, really, really relaxed. So relaxed that we've lost the body, that we've died. So something in me has to clench, has to tighten up, and that then becomes the place from which I operate, from which I judge the world. And it's generally negative judgments, opinions. So when we let that go, then the ground takes its place. But it is quite frightening. And it is very much like you've taken the bottom off something, and this sense that something in you has just sort of dropped out. And then that balance is very buoyant. When I used to work with John privately, which eventually was every day for 3 hours, every now and then, or very infrequently actually, about twice a year, I'd say, we'd be working and it would reach a sort of pitch and intensity, the work that we were doing. And suddenly completely out of the blue, I'd just collapse, I'd just fall down. And it really was like something had just let go. And I could no longer stay up from my usual sense of self. John would just laugh. I'd get up instantly and it would be fine. But there was this real sense of terror, of a space opening up that was so much larger than the one I was accustomed to. This one's very different because the previous one, we were very much staying within a range like this, like scanning this sort of range. With this one, we're just trying to get a sense that we're got 360 degrees. So when I turn here, I want at least to be able to glance at this wall behind me. So there's very much a sense that I've got the whole room rather than just the part of the room that's in front of me. Again, keep the gravity. We have to always be telling ourselves just to relax, because the temptation is just to tense up and re-establish that hard, judgmental vantage. That the work is all about just dismantling that, really. Remember that quote of Augustine? The student asked him, tell me the 3 qualities that you need to become a good Christian. And he just said, humility, humility, humility. And it's interesting that the word humility, it actually comes from hummus, not the food, but the earth. Humility is just getting down into the ground, into the soil. And what's very important for that, which is not spoken about, and I'm not sure why, is the tail. Because the bottom of the tube, if you like, the bottom of my spine, my root chakra, is just my tail. And that has to open up so that there can be a sense of your root getting into the ground. Your root chakra can extend down through the legs and into the ground. And if you can get that, then opening the crown chakra to connect to the heavens is relatively straightforward. It just follows on from that. The best image I've invented for gravity and levity. Imagine you've had a hot shower, so you're feeling really relaxed. You come out of the shower naked, dripping, wet, and you just stand there. Imagine, so let's just come back into riding horse. So we're just standing. We're naked, we're wet, we're hot, we're dripping, but we're also steaming. So the water trickling down our bodies is like the image of gravity. And then the steam rising from my body is the image of levity. So we need an imagination. We need to be able to see these images, to conjure these images, and then just to be inside it and let the image operate upon you. That's what brings the work alive. It's just your ability to imagine, your imagination. This whole area here has to really just open up. It almost feels like if you opened any more, you'd just shit yourself. Like everything, like something would just drop out of you. Feel it, if you really just let go that tiny bit more, you'd literally just collapse. Your knees would buckle. That's the point, that's the edge that we want to tremble at. What I call the point of failure. And it just takes a lot of courage to actually venture there and then to really try and sustain it. Feel the steam rising, but then also feel it like a levitating force, like something up there is sucking me. And if I could let go to that, if I could really trust and just let go to that, I would literally come off the ground. So you've got these two forces that we're just trying to just completely abandon ourselves to, surrender. So I can feel here what needs to relax just to let this feel like it's just pulling the bottom out of me, literally. So what do I have to find in order to let this force be as strong as this one? And it is very much of the heart, of the area above the solar plexus. I'm feeling this point, the solar plexus, being more and more important. And then the lower body, the sort of earthy quality, is more and more, is down from here. Feel that, like the heart is expanding, the shoulders are broadening, the head is just opening up and just becoming this radiant starburst. Like that wonderful picture of Blake's of Albion, the perfect man just sort of standing there with this head that looks like it's just full of light. Blake's someone that's really worth reading and looking at his art because he really was a visionary. His imagination was so strong that he saw things that were real. It wasn't just fantasy. Feel the spirit, feel the air just pregnant with all these spirits. The cherubim and the seraphim are attending you and are attending your work. Let's just go backwards and forwards. So set something going. Stay with it. Don't let your mind wander. And the repetition will cause the thing to intensify. And then you'll just find things to look at that you've never looked at before. There was a time when John was teaching this new form, and it was long. It's like 4.5 hours long. So there were loads and loads of postures. And he just got a bit impatient. So he'd teach like 20 postures in a lesson. And I said to him, I said, how on earth am I going to remember that? And he said, don't worry about it. Just go home. He said, just do your practice. Just start working. He says, it will come out. It will come. And sure enough, it did. But sometimes it would take hours. But it would. Eventually, you'd get there. This is really what we need. Just need a lot of patience, a lot of time, a lot of patience. I love those 5 virtues of Chen Wei-ming. He was like a daddy to Chen Manqing. So Chen Manqing studied with young Cheng-fu, but of course the teacher was a little bit unapproachable. And so Chen Wei-ming was, I think, the longest running student with young Cheng-fu. So he became like a father figure to Chen Manqing. And Chen Wei-ming was beautiful. There's a lovely book of his, and in it he states these 5 virtues: faith, respect, patience, perseverance, and humility. So it's perfect, really. You just need those. So that's what we're practicing, really. We're just trying to get stronger at each one of them. Try not to let the mind wander. Stay with it. Stay with gravity. Stay with the sinking. And then let's try just coming backwards and forwards, but more slowly, and just pushing with the opposite hand. So as I come into the front foot, my left foot is my back hand that's pushing. As I go into my back foot, it's my front hand that's pushing. So this is the full and empty, really. As I come into the leg, it fills from the ground, and that crosses into the other side of the body and comes out there. Feel the yielding. The yielding is the straight becoming round. The attack is the round becoming straight. So this is the end of my attack. That bleeds into the next bit, which is the roundening out, which is this. That's what I really want to feel. That's the first thing we have to try and establish. And that's in the shoulder loosening and this spot here beneath the collarbone, really emptying and relaxing. So this is the hollow chest. And it should feel amazing. Basically, if it doesn't feel good, you won't practice it. There has to be some reward. Pain is not much of a reward, really. So what we're feeling beneath the solar plexus, especially here, 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 is generally pain. But what we feel in the upper body is energy, just the beauty of soft energy. And that makes it all worthwhile, really. You just have to become wise enough, just experienced enough, really, to know that what's amazing happening up here is balanced by the work that's going on in the lower body. Part of learning to relax and open up the tail involves a judicious sticking out of your bum. So here I can just really lean forwards and let my tail extend down my back leg. And then here, like the way young Cheng-fu does Repulse Monkey, he really leans forwards and it looks like he's got a lot of weight in his front leg, but his front leg is straight. So my front leg straightens and that drives this really backwards. And then here my back leg really straightens and that tends to lean me forwards. You need to work in that way until you've got some freedom in the tail. And then you can bring it up to Chen Manqing's beautiful vertical back. The way Chen Manqing did his form, it's very advanced. There's a lot in you that needs to have opened up, a lot of work you need to have done before you can countenance it or do it with any sort of effectiveness. Just watch that clip of young Cheng-fu, young and old, and just see what his posture's like here. So he's really leaning forwards. And you can really see that his tail, his sacrum, it's really free. So if I want to express fierceness and intensity, one end of my spine, this end of my spine, I also have to at least feel it in the other end. Now let's just do a little bit against the wall, because this is actually just very useful. Pressing the wall, you don't have to press it very hard, and your feet can be quite close together. You don't need to have a long stance, although you'll get more intensity the longer your step is. Allowing the pressure to build up. I'm just trying to straighten my back leg to push this hip around and letting that force come up my body, flow up my spine and down into my two hands, pressing in the wall. And slowly, this point here on my back, I imagine that there's someone here with their hand on my sacrum, my lower back, driving me forwards into the front foot and down. And I want that to just translate into the wall as a gentle push upwards. And I want to feel that coming up into my thymus, into my upper heart. So there's a direct channel between my back foot, the sole of my back foot, and my upper heart. You just hold it until you feel you want to scream. And then you just change over. So bring the front foot back and the back foot forwards. So what I find is important, if you want to work with this new intensity, with the spine leaning a little bit, I think it's important that your back foot doesn't come forwards too much. My back foot is sort of pointing more towards the wall to my right here than it is forwards. That will really open up my groin area, and I can really feel this leg working on my pelvis. My heart is really expanding from this force from my back leg, beginning to extend down my arms into the wall. Feel as though you're pushing through the wall. You're not resting on the wall. Your mind is going through the wall. I'm probing into the neighbor's apartment. And then the other foot forwards. So just be careful with this because it does put a lot of strain on your lower back, which is good as long as you don't overdo it. You can keep your mind quiet and attentive, then the intensity will build up. Intensity and radiance. Remember those two beautiful words? The more intense it becomes, the more radiant I become, the more energy I emit. And then one more with the other foot forwards. Upper part of my spine, above my solar plexus, is driving up and through the wall. And my lower part of my spine, solar plexus down, is driving through the legs. Feel the pathway. So I have this articulated spine like a chain, goes down into the sacrum, leaps across into the hip bones. So that requires my sacroiliacs to, like there's pressure in them. There's pressure in the joints. The joints are like closed systems that have got an internal pressure. So the more I can feel this driving down of my upper body, the more my sacroiliac should swell open and push my two hip bones out. And then it has to leap across from here into the leg. So here, this is very important. And then the feeling that my shins come in, they probably don't, but they feel like they do because they're not going out as much as my thighs are. So I've got those joints all the way down my spine. And then that really important one where L1 hits the sacrum. And then the sacrum attaches almost immediately to the hip bones. These are swelling apart, space opening here into the hip joints, across knees, down into the ankles. The ankles, it just flares out like your fingers splaying out. And just let the tail be free. So don't tuck your tail under. Let it stick out. So what do I need to do with my tail just to bring a little bit of fierceness into my upper heart? Imagine you're a warrior. You're going to go into battle. You're psyching yourself up to go into battle. You know you're going to die. You know it's the end. You want to go out in glory. So something here has to expand. And that requires my tail to go out. It requires me to stick my bum out effectively. Sticking the bum out in a bad way is just straightening your legs and doing this. If I'm bending my legs and my tail is going back, that's not really sticking your bum out. That's just activating your tail. So let's try a bit of the form, yeah? What I find now is that I've been doing it all completely wrong. I mean, basically, that's progress at Tai Chi, really. You come to a realization, shit, I got it wrong. And then you have to start again at the beginning. It's impossible for the teacher to sort of say anything. The teacher cannot facilitate the student's understanding. Because all the teacher can do is give the student an exercise which the student then needs to go away and work on for a long time and come to their own understanding. And when they do, it will always be, oh, so that's what he meant. I completely misinterpreted it. This is why the teacher has to be careful not to say too much. Otherwise, he will just imprint his own interpretation upon the student, which is not good. The student has to do the work. If you're relying on someone else's interpretation, then that's more like an overstanding rather than an understanding. So understanding is an interesting word because you're standing under, you're getting under something. You're getting to the root of it, you're getting to the bottom of it, you're getting underneath it. Whereas if you're coming down on top, first of all, you damage it. And secondly, it's much more to do with you than it is about the thing. Learning anything that's worthwhile learning is difficult. Okay, so let's try the form. So what is it that brings the hands up here? It's my intensity, it's my fiercening, my fieriness. So that requires me to just lean forwards very slightly to get some intensity in the heart and to get this reaching back. It's very subtle. So I'm glaring into the distance, and that's my hands. And now what is it that brings the hands in? It's not just this. It's something here that drops. It's a sinking in the tail. So let's try this. So here I'm sort of leaning forwards a tiny bit, and that requires me to stick my tail back. And then here my tail just drops, and that brings the hands in. Someone's attacking me with their right hand. I enter and I yield. Now, what they do, they start pulling out. So this is really just me sticking to them, staying with them, and just adding a little bit of my own. And then as they're flying up in the air, I pull down here to whiplash their neck. Now someone is attacking me with their right hand again, but I'm going to yield with my left. So I turn here, I take their left arm and yield. They're coming in, and again, they start to pull out, and I just scissor the arm. And then I continue turning to finish the posture. Now someone attacking with their left hand, I enter. So I get to the outside of their left arm. So here, their energy is long, so a big yield from me, and they'll just come through like this. And as they do, I just pressure them in this direction on the joint of their elbow. Now they start pulling out of that, and I just follow up. I stick to them and just come forwards and press. Someone else coming in with two hands, I use my two hands to separate their two hands. And again, they start pulling away. I just come forwards, add 4 ounces of my energy, and they go flying back. Again, someone else coming in now with their left hand, I yield and turn and push with my right. I continue turning. Someone coming in from here now with their right hand, I yield. So this is really where you'd be using the hook. So the hook just goes over someone's arm like this and catches it and then comes through, and then you can flick off like that. So that's basically what's happening here. And then as they come through, you strike with the hook and step, bring the arm up. So this is still yielding here. So you're not coming forwards, you're staying in the back foot, and then you come forwards to push. Someone's coming in with their right arm, so you're taking it. And remember young Cheng-fu when he does this, he's like this, isn't he? It's really intense, it's really low. It's just an attempt to get down really and just make it really fierce. And then just pull down, step in and shoulder. And then white crane. And now turning. Play guitar. My left palm faces my heart until I start turning back to the front, and then it turns to face down and then moves down to brush the knee. So again, this feeling that someone is pressing down on your lower back, which is forcing your tail back and your heart out. I want the feeling that something is really extended out of here and is reached at least as far as my hand. And then back, and I'll step back here just to create a bit of space. It's this pressure on my sacrum that's keeping me down. So for someone to be able to put pressure on my sacrum that's going to drive me down rather than simply forwards, my sacrum has to be angled back a little bit. This really feels like it's going all the way around, like I'm wrapping something around myself. And then quickly back. And now yielding. Push. Let's try it just once again, and we'll just go through at normal speed without me talking.